Hey, this is Dave from MetalEpidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review, and for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Icelandic technical death metal band Ophidian I. The band's new album Desolate will be released on July 16th via Season of Mist Records. So these guys have been active since around 2010, which kind of blows my mind a little because the first time I'd heard of them was about 3 weeks ago. Desolate is the band's second full-length album, which was recorded at, here we go, Sand Login Studio, produced by Daniel Mane Konradsson and mixed by Christian Donaldson at The Grid. I'm assuming you guys are in the same boat as me, that you haven't came across these guys before? Or
big fan, Dave. Big fan for years. I've got their tattoo.
Oh, is that what that was? Right.
Yeah,
that's making
it's
sense.
Just to be honest, it's what I use for any band who are of the death metal or black metal persuasion, because it's just a scroll and I can go, it's like no. I'm with you. I had never in a million years, never heard of these guys before.
It's really strange. Like, I can't believe they've been like on.
They had a break from like 2014 up until now, so I'm not surprised we haven't heard of them. So
true. Yeah, it does look like they've been fairly quiet. But the first single that they dropped kind of blew my tits clean off. I played it like 4-5 times. Like,
then you shared it with us, and I didn't listen to it because I was busy that day, and then I had to ask you later on, what was all this pish? Iceland and stuff like that. You're like, no, you should listen to it. And I still didn't listen to it. I waited till the album came in, Dave, because you thought that you'd only been sent a single, and it turned out David had been sent the whole. David had been listening to this song for 5 times when he had the whole album, begging to play it, and he didn't do it.
No. But fucking, there's something clearly in the water over in fucking Iceland, by the way, because last year we get Cult of Lilith. This year we've now
There's
got
nothing to do in Iceland. They've got the Blue Lagoon, and for 4 months they can see the fucking Aurora Borealis. And that is literally all there is. Everything's too expensive. You need to stay at home and learn an instrument. Yeah, clearly. We've just spoken recently in another review about like technical death metal and how having like insane playing skills is one thing, but you have to bring more than that just to the table to stand out in this genre. There has to be some sort of variety in the songs, whether it's tempo changes, rhythm changes, or changing the tone of each track. And I got this, like, from that first single from Diamonds, I was completely hooked in. Not only does it have ridiculous technicality, but it has a ton of melody in the riffs, whilst being extremely heavy at the same time. The lead guitar work is jaw-droppingly good on this. It's insanely fucking good.
Yeah. So they have some really, really clever and inventive transitions between sections, and some of the riffs are utterly punishing. So from that first single, like, it's the first track in the album, I was so in on this. I was like, oh yes, just let's go, let's get the rest of this album on the go and let's do this. What about you guys? Were you as impressed as me with that first track, with the single, or am I like the lone wolf on this one?
No, like I say, I didn't listen to the single as a single. I listened to it as just the album. And yeah, it caught me. The big thing that caught me straight away was the lead guitar work, because I just was not fucking expecting it at all. And these guys are fret warriors. I don't know if that's what we call them. Let's call them that. They really are. It's almost as bordering on the old power metal in terms of the delivery and execution, but it's very much not. It's very much a death metal album. And I thought it added like a really interesting element to the songs, because to me, once again, as I said on a previous review,
I am the hard sell here, right? I am the guy that tolerates death metal but isn't like solely into it. And the bands that do something a little bit different or come at it from a slightly different angle or try and incorporate different things are the ones that usually stand out to me. So that was instantly, right, you don't sound the same as what I was expecting from the genre that you are from. You've got something else going on. We've already mentioned them in another review as well. There was a kind of almost like when you listen to some of the early After the Burial albums, specifically the lead guitar work, it reminded me of this. It's just they have a tone which is so clean and nice to listen to. Like it's immaculately. It's almost, it shouldn't be on the album in terms of how clean it sounds compared to how everything else sounds. It kind of almost feels like it's at odds with it, but I loved it because it just it made them stand out to me. Like straight away, you play any of these songs 6 months from now, as soon as one of those solos comes in, I'm going to be like, oh, that's that Icelandic band. Might not be able to remember the name because it's Ophidian, and that's not a word that a Scotsman should say. I'll end up calling them Obsidian Ear. And their new song, I'll get the name muddled up because like I'm old. But like the sound of that guitar straight away will drag my attention. It'll bring me back on point. So to me, that was the first big thing that stood out for me. The second big thing that stood out for me, and I'm just going to do the whole album and then leave you to pick up pieces. Specifically was the songwriting. I love the songwriting in this. I think it makes clever changes quickly, and by God, this is a 10-song death metal album that is under 40 minutes. Yes, sir. Yes, please. More of that, please. Like, the songs are almost at times formulaic in song structure, but their changes while they're jumping and making their transitions are the things that kept me interested, and they never overstay their welcome. Like they hit you out with those kind of verse chorus, and then like you might get a guitar solo, and then you're going to get a wee verse chorus, and then you're going off into guitar territory, and it's all just like all over the place, and then you don't know how the song's going to finish. So all that stuff is brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. And it's the production I really enjoyed as well. I think the drums, and I don't want to get too Kylie here, I think the drums are maybe a little bit overproduced, just a bit, but once again, it kind of added this 3-tier element to me. It was overproduced, but it wasn't too loud in the mix for me, so I could still totally make out what the guitars were doing, which I enjoyed. But the production on that felt like it had been handled somewhere, the guitars had been done somewhere else, and then vocally it had been done somewhere else. And it's not. I just think that's what the guys bring to the band. It didn't surprise me when we were talking about this off-air last week, maybe, when we said we were going to do this, and you'd said to me, oh, well, all these guys are in other bands. They're off doing their other... So I think they've all, in the time period, acquired their sound, and they've just all brought that sound back into Ophidian I, and that's why the drums to me don't necessarily sound like they fit in the band, but it totally works, and the guitars don't feel like they totally fit in the band, but it totally works. And then vocally as well, I love the vocals on this, at times minimalist. Like there are big sections here where there are no vocals at all, and they're actually not missed at all because the guitar is doing so much melody in what it's playing that it just works. I'd like almost putting those vocals in would be a distraction from the very well-constructed guitar work that's in here. But then there's other moments where the vocalist gets to relish what he's doing, and he's nasty and he's snarly, and it fucking sounds great as well. This is a fast, well-written, like incredibly well-written, well-constructed album by guys that understand the craft. Like this is a, like whereas we discussed another album, which I don't know the timeline of when they're being released, so you may have heard it already. My big complaint was there wasn't the songs on that one. I had all the musicianship but not the songs. This one has all the songs. Like every single one of them had their own personality, had their own little quirk, had moments that were building to something, and when they hit in with, and it's mostly guitar solos that are really memorable. Like to write a memorable guitar solo is difficult. To write them all the way through this album and have them almost at times feeling like they were dueling sounded fucking great as well. So yeah, there's as someone who doesn't necessarily acclimate to this sort of music, I thought it was great.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I was like, as I said, I was excited with that first track, so I was hoping like the rest of the album was going to continue like that. And to be honest, I wasn't far off. They managed to keep that level of dexterity constant throughout. I think guitarists in particular will get a huge kick out of this album. It is brimming with some unbelievably good playing chops from the two guitarists on here. Every track has multiple riffs or a solo that will melt your goddamn face off, you know what I mean? The bass is also of a very kind of high standard, and I loved it. The production gave the bass a kind of lane of its own. It was very clear, very audible in the mix, but he could 100% hold his own with the two guitarists as well. Drumming is also tight as hell. I think he brings all the elements you'd expect for a genre like this. It's got the blast, it's got the rapid bass drum patterns, and like a varied selection of fills and grooves. Speed-wise, this album pretty much sits at the tempo of Holy Shitballs for the majority of it, to be honest. Every track starts like a fucking bullet being shot out of a gun. Even on the slightly slower tracks, like Sequential Descent, they're still playing at a fairly fast pace. But there are moments on some of the tracks where they slide into a slightly slower groove. So although it is pretty constant, there are moments where they just ease off the gas pedal ever so slightly. Not for huge lengths of time, but just enough for you to feel like there's been a shift in the track. And honestly, I didn't mind the rapid tempo being continual because I felt like there was enough other elements that kept it interesting. The guitar work is phenomenal. I loved their sense of melody on this. They have this clever way of making these tracks sound utterly savage yet pleasant at the same time. Like Captive Infinity, for example, starts with this like acoustic kind of Spanish style guitar work that then merges into like this just kind of onslaught of brutal riffs in the vein of like Arkaik or Neuraxis or something like that. But the solos or lead work that accompanies it just gives it this kind of lighter streak, kind of balances it all out. But then like they then hit like a riff in the middle of that track that feels almost like a more discordant Hate Eternal or even like a more modern Morbid Angel. And I think it's that contrast of light and shade that really works on this. When they do launch into something a little darker, slightly more bleak, it really stands out because of the lighter elements they kind of interlace their riffs with. Personally, I think this album actually gets better as it goes on, which is a bit of an oddity right now because most of the albums we've been reviewing recently seem to be mainly front-loaded with all the kind of best material, but I felt this got more interesting and engaging as it progressed through the album. There were more kind of standout moments on tracks like Captive Infinity, like I mentioned, but also Enslaved and A Desolate Swarm had some amazing riffs with some like Rings of Saturn type lead work. Dominion Eyes had some really cool grooves that you can really bang your head to, and Jupiter for me had some of the best riffs on the album. Really Moorish riffs and rhythms that really stuck in your head afterwards, and the solos are just insanely good. Production wise, I enjoyed it as well. I think they've done a great job of keeping this album really clear. It's a very techy album, so it could have easily like ended up tangled up in its own kind of complexities, but the production is tight, it's precise, it still has a punch to it, and I liked that everything felt quite balanced in the mix. I could make out every instrument. I enjoyed this as much as I hoped I would after hearing the first single. I think the musicianship is a very, very high level, but even at that, I didn't think it became like too overpowering that it felt like they were just kind of like showboating. I think they got the balance right on this. It's very technical, but also has some amazing melody and some downright killer death metal riffs that'll just give you the stank. So yeah, I don't want to talk where that came from. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Kyle, finally, what do you think of this one?
I absolutely loved the musicianship on display here. It's such a high level. I mean, we said before these guys sort of haven't done much since 2014, and in those 6-7 years, they've clearly gone off and really, really, really practiced. And
yeah, they're all in other bands. That's the thing. They're all in like fucking established, well trodden, well written bands. Like, so clearly they've just been like honing their craft while doing band shit.
Yeah, exactly. And the highly polished musicianship and songwriting is definitely on display here. It really is to such a high degree. I couldn't quite believe it when I listened to it because I thought it was just another technical death metal band. Here we go. But they absolutely stand out on their own with that the kind of songwriting that they do. The lead work is incredible. The way they structure their songs is really, really good. But all that said, it's all completely let down by the overproduced nature of it. It's so unbelievably overproduced. I could barely get through a single listen. And I listened to it twice, and it was hard, because it's so hard to sit there and think, this is amazing musicianship and great songwriting, but the production just absolutely sucks all of the life out. It's completely sterile. The guitars are recorded at half speed and sped up. All of the drums are totally fake. The vocals are tuned, which growly vocals is not a very good idea. And I'm just like, I couldn't believe it. I was enjoying it so much. And then I turned my ear to the production. I was like, oh, hang on a minute. They've absolutely sucked the life out of it. So I kind of hate it. I can't get through it. I think if they're gonna release another album, they should use an absolutely different producer and a different whoever engineered this, because it's terrible. It's just so. I can't believe that they crafted these incredible songs, and I can imagine they sat in their practice room playing these at the speed that they are written and recorded the album, but then they just completely fucked it in the studio.
I think it's
totally.
I think guitarist produced it. I think.
Well, he should never produce another album as long as he lives.
I really didn't think it was that bad at all. I quite liked
the production. We'll go through privately and I'll point it out and be like, hang on a minute. It's like, you hear all the stuff and you hear all the guitar takes and it's all time aligned perfectly to the grid, and it's all, I mean, I've ranted about this before, and it just sucks. It just sucked it all of the life out for me.
I could 100% hear it had been timelined, absolutely, but I think it worked with this style. Like, I think it absolutely worked.
That's the thing. It doesn't work for me at all. It's just like, why? I'm just listening to your computer play the song for you. Like, everything that makes the musician is now lost because they've aligned it to the grid, and because it's bullshit and I hate it. So yeah, all that stuff I said before is absolutely true. They're incredible musicians, they're incredible songwriters, but they just let themselves down in this one with that horrifically overproduced sound. They didn't, just because they could, they didn't think that they should, you know? It's like they absolutely should not have. Some of it goes a long way.
The Jeff Goldblum argument from Jurassic Park right now.
Yep, absolutely.
Life finds a way.
Jurassic Park. Music finds a way. So this is a prime example of incredible musicianship absolutely fucking murdered by overproduced bullshit. So it's just produced within an inch of its life and just dead on arrival for me. So sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so ratings for this new one from Ophidian I. Duncan, what did you think of Desolate?
This is a 4 for me. I really enjoyed it. Like I say, there was a lot for me to sink my teeth into. There's a lot of re-listen value for me in an album like this, which is not common for this genre of music. I'm usually like halfway through the year, you're like, this is a year of death metal, and I'm like, is it, Dave? And then you launch out 40 bands, and I'm like, oh yeah, we did actually listen to all of them, because I've not listened to any of them since the recording. But this is one that I could easily go back to again and again, and very much kind of doubling in. If people were thinking why Dave was saying what was in the water in Iceland, Cult of Lilith last year, I think we all spaffed our sacks empty over. That's right, stealing back my semen jokes, which was a reference on a different. You'll be able to link them all together. You'll be able to link them all when we record all these things. But yeah, like the musicianship on that is of such a high caliber. The musicianship on this is of such a high caliber. 4 feels right from this guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. I would go 4/5 as well. It's one that I've enjoyed going back to, and even when I've been listening to other albums, I've been thinking, I'd quite like to go back and listen to that Ophidian I album again. I really enjoyed it. I think the melody on this is absolutely fantastic for a technical death metal band, which you're expecting something that's going to come out and just kind of melt your face off, and it does. But like, the melodies on this and the solos are unbelievable. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have any issues with production for me. I thought it was pretty decent. So I'd go 4.5. Sorry, 4/5 even, not 4.5.
Knocking half a point off.
Kyle?
I am going to go completely opposite of you guys, because in like I said, everything was amazing. The musicianship and the solos were incredible, but they're only incredible because the computer made it so. So I'm going to come in with 2/5.
There we go.
Dear. Okay, so this one drops on the 16th of July on Season of Mist Records. If you want to check out the band, it's facebook.com/Ophidian I. I'll put a little link in the description below to their Facebook, Bandcamps, any pre-orders and stuff as well that you can check out. Let us know what you think. If you've heard the first single, let us know. And when you've heard the album, feel free to fire a comment in below. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on this one. That is the review. Much appreciated. Thank you for checking it out. And we'll be back with a new review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.